This is a highly requested video. Now, I know all YouTubers say that to get you excited, to get you interested in the topic, to get you wondering what has been highly requested. But since I started this channel 1 year ago, it really is the main topic that everyone has been asking for. Sentence structure. Sentence structure. Now, the reason it has taken me so long to make this video is because I wanted to spend the time researching and thinking about the easiest ways to structure this video so that you can understand, because it's quite a complicated topic and I want to make it as easy as possible to understand. I haven't had a lot of time recently, but this week I did. So I've had time to research, find examples, and bring you this video today. When I typed into Google, sentence structure, English, the first 4 links that came up were how to use AI to improve your English, use AI to write good sentences, let AI help you write English, download this AI to help your English sound better. Now, this is quite sad, really, because the way you structure your sentences, the way you put your words together, is a direct representation of you, your personality, your creativity, your imagination. How you express yourself shows your personality. So for AI to do all of that work for you, it takes the fun and creativity and individuality out of your writing. Imagine if we all sounded exactly the same in our emails. Or if you are someone that likes reading books, imagine if every book was written in exactly the same way. All the fun is lost. But anyway, you have chosen to watch this video, which to me suggests that you want to improve your sentence structure. You want to improve the way you are writing, and you want to do it by yourself with a teacher. Not with technology, not with AI. So let's get started. This is going to be a long video today because we have a lot to get through. So no more introduction. Let's get straight into our first point. Basic sentence structure. Now, I'm sure you are aware of this because this is one of the first things you learn when you start writing in English. Subject, verb, object. So all sentences, typically all sentences, especially basic sentences, need to have the subject, the verb, and the object. So for example, my buddy, my friend, lends me their calculator. Subject, my friend. Verb, lends, to lend. And object, calculator. I like riding my bike. I, subject, like riding, riding being the verb. My bike, object. Now, this is a very basic sentence structure, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You know this already. But when clauses come in, when the sentence gets a bit more complicated, that's when I see more mistakes being made. So a clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. Sometimes a clause is a complete sentence on its own, but other times it needs help to express the thought before it is a complete thought. For example, we'll eat dinner. We'll eat dinner. That's our simple sentence. We, the subject, eat, the verb, dinner, the object. But we'll eat dinner at 5. We have we, the subject, eat, the verb, dinner, the object, and then we have this extra bit of information which is at 5. This is not necessary information to complete the sentence, but it is necessary to make this clause full. So the time we eat dinner, it's added information that we need to know. Maybe I've asked a question, what time will we eat dinner? If I just said we'll eat dinner, you don't have your answer. So we'll eat dinner at 5. The at 5 is not necessary to complete the sentence, but it is necessary to understand the thought process. We'll eat dinner at 5 if your dad comes home on time. So again, we have more information here that change the beginning half of the sentence. This is a subordinate clause, or sometimes known as a conditional, because the first half of the sentence can only happen if the second half of the sentence happens. So if your dad does not come home, we will not eat dinner. It all depends on your dad coming home. So this information, again, is not necessary to complete the sentence, but for the context of the situation, it's 100% necessary because we are only doing this if this happens. Now, there are multiple types of sentences. Simple ones, compound, complex, compound, complex. I actually don't think this information is necessary in order for you to speak English. The only reason you would need to know the names of different sentences is if you're going to go and teach English literature at a university level. What I do think is important to know is the relevant information to your everyday writing. How you can make your emails, your presentations, your social media posts, your messages to colleagues, friends, other parents of your children. How you can make those sentences more fluent, more natural, and sound more advanced. So what we're going to go through for the rest of this video is some things to be aware of when you are writing. And if you can notice all of these patterns and not make these mistakes, your writing will naturally improve. And I do have a lot of examples throughout this video as well, and some of them were from my community page on YouTube, where I asked subscribers to complete a sentence for me so that I could use some of their examples in this video. If you feel like you didn't see that post or you would have liked to have contributed, make sure your notifications for this channel are turned on, and that way you will see when I post something in the community tab that you could possibly help with. So one of the biggest mistakes made is, as we went through, is the subject-verb order plus additional information. So sometimes people will put the additional information in the wrong place, or start with the additional information, or have the order of the subject, verb, object incorrect. So make sure what you are doing is subject, verb, object, and your additional information when it's a simple sentence. Catherine teaches English well. So the additional information is that I teach well. Catherine teaches well English would be incorrect. Catherine teaches English on YouTube. On YouTube is the extra information, the additional information. The second mistake that people often make with sentence structure is punctuation. The punctuation is in the wrong place. It's a full stop when it could be a comma, or it's a comma when it should be a full stop. But I have lots of videos on punctuation. So go and watch those if you want to remind yourself how to use the punctuation. And let's focus on the more complex issues that come up with sentence structure. Clarity. Clarity. Now, often I see people are so excited to kind of write their thoughts and feelings that it's not clear. There is not a clear story. There's not a clear path. They add adjectives in the wrong places, or they start talking about something and immediately start talking about something else. So always make sure your sentences are clear to the reader, not just to you. I recently had a student who is trying to improve their writing with me. I will send them a question and they will write an answer to that question, and we review it together in lessons. Now, this student wrote, "The new medical device can help patients. It shows on an easy-to-read screen the blood pressure, the heart rate, the body temperature, and more." Now, whilst this is technically a correct sentence, it doesn't read nicely. There's a lot of information that we have and a lot of important information that is not highlighted because it's in the wrong place. So we could write this better as, "The new medical device will show on an easy-to-read screen, comma," or semicolon you could put here because you're about to list some things. So, The new medical device will show on an easy-to-read screen the blood pressure, the heart rate, and the body temperature, and more. The body temperature and more, which will be very helpful to patients. So we have a full sentence here giving you the information you need. The new device shows on a screen this. The additional information is that it's helpful. That is not relevant to complete this first sentence. So we put a full stop and we add it in a second sentence. It still makes sense, it still says the same thing, but it's much easier to read and sounds much more professional. Or we could say something like, the new medical device can help patients. It will show blood pressure, heart rate, body temperature, and more on an easy-to-read screen. So again, much easier to read, still the same amount of information, but what I've done is I have sectioned it off so it can help patients. How? This is how. And additionally, there's an easy-to-read screen. So I'm sectioning the sentence off so that all the relevant information to complete the idea is at the beginning. So think about it. This sentence would still make sense without it can help patients. It would still make sense without easy to read screen. If it just said the new medical device shows blood pressure, heart rate, body temperature, that's a full sentence. Because we have the subject, the new medical device, the verb shows, and the object, which, okay, we could argue the object is the medical device, but in this example, we're going with blood pressure, heart rate, body temperature. One way you can check that your sentence is clear and makes sense is proofread. Proofread what you have written. And my advice to you is always proofread out loud. Now, I know if you work in an office, co-working space, sometimes you cannot read out loud. But every time you have the opportunity to read out loud, do so. When you're reading in your mind, when you're using your brain's voice to read, it can skip words and make up parts and fill in gaps. Your brain has an imagination, it has creativity, so it will fill in any gaps or bits you don't understand. So look at this example. If I put this on the screen, you know that this says ice is frozen, even though the vowels are missing, because your imagination fills in the gaps. However, if you were to read this out loud, you might struggle to see that it says frozen because you're using your voice and your voice is not as quick as your thoughts are. So when you are reading out loud, what is happening is two things really. First of all, you're reading, but second of all, your brain is listening to what you are reading. So your brain is actively giving you feedback at the same time and saying, hey, there's a spelling mistake there. Or, hey, you missed a vowel. Or, that doesn't make sense. Can you read that again? So every time you have an opportunity, read out loud. And I always ask my students to read out loud for me. And typically when they do, they notice mistakes before I have a chance to correct them. Our next common mistake that a lot of people make is parallelism. Making sure that subjects, items in a sentence, are all listed in a parallel form, so the same form, using the same grammatical structure. So if everything in your sentence is in present tense, you should not have one thing in the past tense. If everything is in the continuous tense, you shouldn't have one thing in the past tense. For example, let me show you. She likes to swim, run, and bike. This is a verb, verb, verb. To swim, to run, to bike. If I added in, she likes to swim, running, and bike, that's incorrect. That does not make sense because our running is not in the same form as the other verbs in the sentence. I could, however, say she likes swimming, running, and biking because all the verbs are in the same form. He was confident, charismatic, and charming. Again, we have adjective, adjective, adjective. If I was to say he was confident, had charisma, and charming, again, incorrect, because it's in a list. Okay, if it was one sentence, he was confident and had charisma, yes, correct. I'm not talking about sentences where you have two things, an adverb and an adjective. I'm talking about when you're listing things. They have to follow the same form. I'll give you one final example. She is wise, kind, and patient. If you had an adverb thrown in there, it wouldn't make sense. She is wide. She's not wide. Never tell her she's wide. She is wise, patiently, and kind. No, incorrect. We have to have the same form. Never tell a woman she's wide, please. Or a man, for that matter. Just don't tell people they are wide. Avoiding run-on sentences. As the name suggests, a run-on sentence is a sentence that keeps giving us information. It never stops. It just keeps going, which is fine in some situations, as long as the sentence is a complete thought. So sometimes you do need to write 3 or 4 different lines of writing to complete your sentence, but it has to be a complete thought. So for example, as I said, I asked my subscribers to finish the sentence, I feel more productive when. And they gave me their answers. Now, using some of their answers, I'm going to show you examples of this. One of my subscribers, Lotfi, he said, I feel productive when. He went on to complete his sentence, but there was a part of his example that wasn't quite right. Maybe some people prefer money than his family. In this case, if he gets good salary, automatically he becomes more productive. Now, I'm only commenting on sentence structure here, okay? So don't worry about the grammar or if this is correct or incorrect. We are only looking at sentence structure. Now, initially here, the student is talking about money being a priority over family. But then we go on to say that a good salary creates productivity. But how are these two linked? We have no linking between these two sentences. So you have two sentences that are not complete. As a reader, I can't tell if you're trying to say that money being a priority is a bad thing, or if it creates productivity. There's no linking here. They run on, but they do not complete a thought. So if we completed that first thought about people preferring money to their family, and then went into this second sentence, yes, that would make sense. So here's an example of what we could say instead. Maybe some people prefer money to their family. You could say someone with a good salary is more productive as they produce more income. But would they then be considered productive by their family if they are always working, but never there to help with the house chores or raising children? So here we have managed to link the two. I've actually made an even longer sentence than the initial one, but the sentence is a complete thought. There are no questions left at the end of this sentence. Or alternatively, we could leave the family part out altogether so that we're just referring to productivity. We're not adding extra ideas that we can't then complete sentences. So we could say some people prioritize money. If you get a good salary, you will automatically be more productive. So again, you see, I've actually taken out some of the information, but the sentence makes more sense because it is a complete thought. Yasin, she commented and said, I feel more productive when I'm motivated by the environment around me. Now, this is a fantastic complete thought because we have how she feels productive and there's no questions left here. We understand the environment around her makes her feel more productive. Now, what's the opposite of a run-on sentence? I talk about this a lot in my IELTS videos because I notice a lot of people do this in their IELTS written answers, is fragment sentences. So avoid fragment sentences means make sure that each sentence, again, is a complete thought and does not leave the reader wondering what you were trying to say, but these are shorter sentences. So instead of talking and talking and talking and not completing your thought, you're giving really short sentences. It's almost the complete opposite. Your sentences are so short, we can't understand what you're trying to say. For example, here's another one from one of my subscribers. Last thing to mention is about my inner energy. Full stop. Sometimes, and without a previous signal, I feel like I can push a mountain. The subscriber then goes on to explain why they feel like they can push a mountain. But my focus is on this initial sentence. Last thing to mention is about my inner energy. Whilst this is a complete sentence, we end the sentence without knowing about this energy. So this would be better as something like, last thing to mention is about my inner energy, comma. Sometimes, and without previous signal, I feel like I can push a mountain. Full stop. Then we start a new sentence explaining why we feel we can push a mountain. Now, a good example of avoiding fragment sentences is this one. I feel more productive when I'm surrounded by people who appreciate what I'm doing. Otherwise, I feel I'm in the wrong place with the wrong people. Lotfi has said, I feel more productive when, and when they feel more productive. The extra information is, otherwise I feel I'm in the wrong place with the wrong people. But the way this sentence is written is so nice. We don't have too much extra information. The sentence doesn't stop with questions. It's a complete thought. So what I want you to take away from today's video, and the things I want you to remember from today's video, are making sure your sentence is fully complete. You started your thought, you explained it, you finished it. If you need to go into more detail about that thought, make that a separate sentence. But the initial sentence needs to be a complete thought. Clarity. Make sure your sentence is easy to understand and would be clear to somebody that is not you reading it. Can they follow what you're saying? Avoid giving too much information in one sentence and consider breaking it into 2 sentences if it makes it easier to understand and to make it clearer to understand. However, avoid giving short sentences that are not complete. They leave us with questions or they don't link together with the next sentence. Punctuation and, of course, proofreading. Always reread what you have written. Even if you're a native English speaker, you should be reading back what you have written before you send it off to someone. There's nothing worse than sending something off with a mistake. Of course, we're all human, we make mistakes. Sometimes we miss mistakes. That's not a problem. But if you have written something really quickly and sent it off, you are to blame for those mistakes because you did not read what you had written. You did not check what you had written. I have a couple more examples from students of mine. And remember, you do have the option to study with me. You can find the links to my lessons and all of the teachers that I work with's lessons in the description of this video and also on my channel. And all of those teachers have the ability to help you improve your written English. So that's definitely something to consider for the future. I was working with a student recently who had to create a questionnaire. Now, why she was creating a questionnaire doesn't really matter, and the content of the questionnaire also doesn't really matter. I just want you to pay attention to this one question that she had written. Which problem could joining a speaking club fix for you? So just to give a bit of context, she wants to find out if people in her area, in her office, want a speaking club so that they can practice their English. So the people, her colleagues, answering this had a few problems, ability to speak, confidence, times to speak, availability, and they had to circle one of the problems. But this question, which problem could joining a speaking club fix for you? It's not technically incorrect. We have all the right information there, but it just doesn't sound right. And we have a lot of verbs, a lot of subjects, the problem, the speaking club, the 2 verbs joining, fixing the problem. It's just a very complicated question. So instead, we could write something such as, Which of the problems below, with the problems listed below, which of the problems below would be fixed by joining a speaking club? So we have which of the problems are the subject, fix is definitely the verb, and the object is joining a speaking club. We do not need for you. That is extra information that is not necessary and complicates the question. They already understand they are answering for themselves. They're not answering for their friend, for their boss, for their husband. They are answering for themselves. So we do not need for you in there. Or perhaps she could have said, if you joined a speaking club, what problem do you think this would solve? So here we have two separate sentences. If you joined a speaking club, a conditional, if you did this, what problem do you think this would solve? So if you didn't, what problem would it not solve? This is a conditional, but if you did, what problem would it solve? So it's much easier to read and for the person to understand what kind of information is expected from them. Sentence structure can be very difficult to get used to, especially when you don't have anyone giving you feedback on your writing. You know, when you're using spoken English, it's quite easy to get feedback because if you say something wrong, you will see that in the face of the person listening to you. But writing can be difficult because you need someone to correct your writing. So I have a few options for you. The first is using ChatGPT. Now you have to be very careful about how you ask ChatGPT to correct your writing because sometimes ChatGPT has the feeling that you want a better written paragraph or sentence, so it will change the vocabulary used as well. And then it is not your writing, it's ChatGPT's writing. So you have to be very careful that what you're asking ChatGPT is just to check your sentence structure, not to change your sentence completely, not to improve your vocabulary or make it more engaging, but just to check the sentence structure. So we can do this by asking, I am a non-native English speaker. That's important for ChatGPT to know that this is not your first language and it needs to focus on teaching you rather than just telling you an alternative answer. Please check the sentence structure and let me know if I could write this in a clearer way. And then, of course, your sentence. And ChatGPT will let you know, hopefully, will let you know how you could write this in a clearer way. You can also write in my comments anytime. If you want to create a sentence in the comments of this video, make it as detailed as possible. I will give you feedback. I will let you know what you could improve so I can help you with your writing. That's a very easy way for me to help you with your writing. And the final way, of course, is taking writing improvement classes with one of the fantastic teachers that I work with. And as I already said, all of those links are on my channel, so if you feel you need help improving your writing, that's also an option for you. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope everyone that has been requesting a sentence structure video has enjoyed this and learned something from it. There was a lot of information there, I know, but I hope that one thing sticks in your mind. And next time you go to write, you'll think of me and what I've said in this video. And hopefully it will help you. It will help you sound more confident, more fluent, more natural. Let me know down below what you thought, and I will see you next time. Have a fantastic week. Goodbye.